Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40K Imperial Guard Tactics video. So before we start today's video, as is tradition, I would like to say thank you to Biff Hammer for sending in these awesome apocalypse pictures. He said it was about 900 power level, 5 players, and I can see Imperial Guard versus Tyranids, and when I see Imperial Guard versus Tyranids, I say, do you want to know more? Yes, I do. Starship Troopers, baby. I am loving it. Loving the colour scheme. To what I'm most interested in, there's a picture, and I think it's just gone by, of like a small 6-wheeled, looks like a modern day realistic sort of armoured fighting vehicle or infantry fighting vehicle, like a little Orkz thing. It's behind a Chimera next to Leaving Rust when it comes up again. If someone could tell me what that is, or if Biff yourself, if you could leave a little comment for this, because I'm very interested in getting my hands on a couple of those. They look really cool. Good Orkz stand-in, possibly. Anyway, thank you for sending these pictures in, Biff. Really cool. Really, I love the Tyranid colour scheme. I know, heresy. Love the Imperial Guard colour scheme. Yeah, absolutely fantastic pictures. Great action shots. Thank you. If anyone else is interested in sending in some pictures, please post on my Facebook page. There'll be a link in the description down below. And if they are cool, like these ones, then I'll definitely use them in my videos and give you a little shout out as well, because I appreciate you taking the time and effort to post them. Anyway, today's video, Know Thy Foe Orcs. Now, I've played probably half a dozen games with orcs now. I've seen them in face-to-face. I've played against them 4 times, and I've seen them in action half a dozen times. In either little 500-point games all the way up to 2,000-point big games. Okay, so I've got a pretty good handle on how they work now, and I just want. It's not going to be a complete. They're still relatively new codex. There's still a lot of stuff I haven't used, I haven't faced, but this is going to be general themes. Know thy foe orcs, things to be aware of when you're going up against them. Okay. Things you need to be having in the back of your mind when you're doing deployment and going through those first couple of turns. So things that maybe surprise you as much. Okay? So orcs are a really cool army. They're one of the oldest 40k armies, and I think everyone loves them. I've never come across an orc player I didn't like. They attract a certain kind of person, and that's a good kind of person. So that's one thing you should be aware of when you're going to be going against orcs. You're always going to have a good battle. No matter what it is, you're always going to have a good battle. With the index, before they got their codex, they were pretty good. And, you know, comparing them to Genestealer Cult, who really struggle as an index army. They've got some tricks, but they do struggle. Orcs were doing great as an index army. They did have a very specific build that allowed them to do very well. But the fact that they were an index army with an index build that allowed them to do well was fantastic. The codex has only made them stronger. It's only brought greater internal balance. Now, in the half dozen games I've seen orcs, the most common clan culture that I have faced. It's very important to know your different clan cultures now. The most common clan culture that I have faced is the Bad Moons, the shooting one. Now, I remember when a lot of people saw this one originally, they didn't think it was very good. Why would orcs care about rerolling ones to hit? Well, actually, it's a really big deal, because on its own, it's not huge, but combined with several other factors and stratagems, it's a really, really powerful clan culture. And I would say, guys, that Bad Moons, rerolling ones to hit in the shooting phase, is probably the most competitive one, alongside Evil Sons / Speed Freaks. Okay, I think the 2 most powerful ones you're going to come across are Bad Moons and Evil Sons, and the reason for that is Bad Moons allows you to do a heck of a lot of range damage, and Evil Sons allows you to get into close combat more effectively. You'll probably see, guys, in a tournament, if you come across maybe a double battalion orc player, you'll probably see him running 1 Bad Moons for the for his shooting stuff, and 1 Evil Sons for his close combat stuff. That's what I would predict you're going to see. They play off each other very, very well. Now, we'll talk about the cultures again in a second, but just general orc army composition you're going to face, it's going to be a lot of boys. Okay, the army still really encourages boys over toys. You're also going to see a lot of mech guns as well. A lot of fire support. And there's something I want to get into, and it brings me seamlessly back into talking about the bad moons again. You're going to be surprised when I say this, but I don't think orcs are now primarily a close combat army anymore. I think orcs are a shooting army. I don't know, a lot of people are going to go, Mordian Glory, you crazy. What are you talking about? Orcs have always been a close combat army. Don't get me wrong, they're really good at close combat. And they will chop you to pieces. But orc shooting consistently, in the games that I have played and that I have been observing, has done more damage than orc close combat. And the reason for this is the amount of shots that orcs are able to pump out really plays into their rules and their cultures. So for example, you've got a bit, I see now shooter boys as being superior to slugger boys, and it used to be the other way around in the index, but now the codex have dropped, shooter boys are making a huge comeback. The fact that each guy gets 2 shots on a decent range, 18-inch range, means that, and the fact means that you're going to be getting from a big 30-man blob, you're going to be looking at 60 shots, not even taking account heavy, what they call big shooters, which big shooters are really good. But it all just basically comes down to the amount of lead that orcs can chuck out. You're looking at 60 shots from one mob of guys, 140 point mob of guys, 60 shots. Now they're only hitting on 5s, but they're re-rolling 1s. And any 6s that they get to shoot again. So that's immediately, guys, if you're looking at 6 shots, that's another 10 shots that they're getting. And when you think about that, that's the equivalent of having 5 extra boys for free. Now the reason 6s generate extra shots is Daka Daka Daka. It's a special rule that all orcs have. Daka Daka Daka. Any unmodified 6 roll of a 6 always hits and gets additional shots. So orcs are now pretty much immune to -1 to hit armies, because those 6s means that they're getting extra, they're hitting anyway. But yeah, so you're getting 60 shots. That's 20 hits you're going to get, plus you're going to additional 10 extra shots from Daka Daka Daka. That means that's the equivalent of having 5 free boys worth of shooting. Then don't forget your rerolls, guys. That's another. You think about it, the orc player's on average going to get about 10 1s. He's going to get 10 6s and 10 1s in his shooting on average. That's what he's going to get. Which means he gets 10 rerolls, which again, when you think about it, guys, is like another 5 free boys shooting. So the 5 free boys. So a 30-man blob of orcs shooting has the firepower of a 40-man blob. And don't forget those rerolls of 1s, if we're talking about bad moons here, if they reroll and get a 6 with that 1, then they can generate extra attacks as well, extra shots. Think about it. Let's go through the full process so you guys are clear what I'm saying. An orc boy shoots his shooter, and he gets a 6 and a 1 on his hits. Just hypothetically, it's a 6 and a 1. So that means he gets an extra shot straight away. So he gets to roll again, and let's say he gets another hit. So he's got 2 hits off his first shot. Second shot, he gets a 1. He re-rolls that 1, and he gets a 6. Which means that re-roll, which became a 6, means he now gets to fire again. And that extra shot that another shot he gets to fire still gets the re-roll 1s. So one orc boy has potential to fire 5 times. Well, to get 5 shots. At least. If not more. If he gets double 6s, that's 4 shots straight away. And that's 4 shots straight away, and then if he hits with both of those, he's going to get 4. He's got potential. An orc boy has potential to shoot 4 to 5 shots. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. Each orc boy easily has the capability of doubling his firepower output. And a lucky round of shooting could see you taking way Like, we're talking 18, 90 shots from a single orc boy unit. And you might say, oh, well, that requires luck. But think about it. They've got so many factors in play here. They've got reroll 1s and 6s. That luck doesn't even really come into it. They're just going to keep rolling those dice until they pretty much get the result they want, which is incredible. Okay? Now combine this with the fact that you can take... Bad Moons can use a stratagem for 2 command points called Showing Off, which means that infantry unit can shoot again, and if it wants to, it can target a separate unit. It specifically says that. So that means, again, a 30-man blob of orcs, which we've already pointed out is like having a 40-man blob of orcs, with all the rerolls and everything. Gets to shoot again, that's another, we're looking, another 60 to 70 shots. This is from one unit of orcs. One unit of orcs, 210 points. Looking at a minimum of 120 shots with 26s giving them extra shots. So that's 20 more shots. We're looking at 140 shots plus 21s, which will allow them rerolls, those rerolls could become extra shots. You know, we're looking at 160 shots from one unit essentially, one 30-man unit. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity when you think about it, with all the rerolls. And then it gets even better, guys. It gets even better because that's not just it. Okay, you do have other stratagems as well that play into it. So I believe, yeah, it combines with another stratagem, which is another 2 command points. So 4 command points you'll be spending on this 130-man blob, called Mordian. Okay, Mordian, which allows you to activate Daka extra shots on a 5+ rather than a 6+, unmodified. It's incredible, guys. That's another potential 10 shots from that squad. If it's firing twice, another potential 20 shots. It's incredible the amount of potential Daka that this one squad can put out. And I know it sounds even crazier, guys. You could take this to the next level. You could then use another command point for mob up. Use a stratagem on one friendly orc infantry unit with 10 or less models. It may be combined with one orc infantry that has at least 10 models, which means you could do this, and you could mob up a 10-man unit with a 30-man unit to make a 40-man unit. Then you could do Mordian and Showing Off. And that means you would have 160 shots, re-rolling 1s, activating extra shots on a 5+ from one squad. And that's only going to cost you 280 points. Do you guys understand where I'm coming from with orcs being a shooty army now? And you might say, oh yeah, but they can only do that once. No. Why not? What we've talked about there is 40 boys. It's 280 points. It's nothing. They could take that 3 times. 120 boys is pretty normal. Imagine if you come across that 3 times. And yeah, you're blasting away a mob of orcs a turn. But they could do that 3 turns in a row, essentially. Easily. And they're all going to be immune. They're basically immune to morale, guys, thanks to their leadership being based on the amount of models they have in a unit or the amount of models there is in a friendly unit within 6 inches. It's incredible. And don't forget, guys, this ties in. So let's say they haven't mobbed up. Maybe they've got a 30-man blob they didn't mob up. You wipe it out. Guess what? They spend 3 command points. Boom. Unstoppable Green Tide. Use it at the end of the movement phase. Choosing a boys with less than half the models it had at the beginning. Remove it from the field and field it back at full force within 6 inches from any board edge and 9 for enemy units. Basically, you can deep strike. But you can't use it on units which have been mobbed up. But you guys might be saying, well, this is very command point intensive. Yes, it's very command point intensive. But these are orcs. You're probably going to be coming across triple battalion orc armies. You're easily going to be coming across brigade and battalion orc armies. Orc armies will be coming to the field of battle with 18 to 20 command points, no questions asked. No questions asked. They are a horde army. So they really, and you might say, well, what? Okay, you're talking about shooting, but a lot of these guns are only like 18-inch range. That's quite difficult for them to get them into range. For them to win those long-range firefights. Two things that disprove that. Okay, one, they're assault weapons. Weirdly, orcs have got better long-range firepower than Imperial Guard. At 18-inch range, an Imperial Guardsman has one shot. At 18-inch range, an Orc boy has two shots, re-rolling with bad moves, re-rolling ones, sixes, give him extra shots. An Orc boy has more firepower than a Guardsman. With no buffs. We're talking no orders, no buffs, nothing. An Orc boy has more firepower than a Guardsman now. Think about that. It's pretty crazy. Now, there's another thing to factor into this, which is you will be seeing at least in every orc army a big blob of grots. Okay, big blob of grots. So 3 points a model. You're going to be seeing 30 of them at least, and they're going to be strung out across the opponent's entire front line. The reason for this is they've got an ability called Grot Shield. Essentially, guys, used when a clan non-Gretchin infantry unit is shot. If there's a clan unit comprised entirely of infantry Gretchin within 6 inches of that unit, whilst also being close to the shooting model, essentially you have to be in front. Until the end of the phase, roll a d6 for every wound that's inflicted. On a 2+, the Gretchin takes the bullet and is slain. Basically, guys, orcs have got saviour protocols on grots. That's incredible. So you might be trying to obviously they can only do that on one unit. So you might want to try and tease it out of them. But essentially, if your opponent has a big Death Star unit, big unit, he can just grot shield it, just keep grot shielding it. It's insane. So they're tough as well, because you won't necessarily get to kill what you want to kill. Now, one last big thing to mention, this is going to lead me on to the Evil Sons I was talking about before. They have another stratagem called teleporters. 2 command points. During deployment, you can set up any orc unit with a power level of 20 or less, or instead of setting up normally, you can deep strike it. If you deep strike a transport, only the transport power level cost counts. So essentially, anything inside of it is technically deep striking for free. That's the saying, guys. So this is during deployment, so before the game begins. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the orc player could use this more than once. It's not in a phase. So if your opponent wants to deep strike in 2 squads of 30 shooter boys, deep strike them in, he can do that now. No questions asked. Don't forget, orcs used to be considered not very mobile. They're incredibly mobile now. Teleporter combined with da jump, which is a psychic power which allows them to deep strike a unit. You essentially could get, in turn 1, you could go from the orcs being nicely on the other side in their deployment zone to 60 orc boys, 90 orc boys in my front lines. All shooting you. And the opponent, again, this is the flexibility of orcs, guys. The opponent he might want to deep strike 9 inches away from you and then dagger you and then charge you. He might want to do that, but he might not want to do that. Maybe he wants to use, these powers are very flexible. Maybe instead he wants to deep strike all his boys into some cover onto an objective. Remember, they've got an 18-inch range, whether they're closer or further away. They don't care. They've got 18 inches to play with. So they can deep strike onto objectives. 30 boys holding an objective, what are you going to do about it? 30 boys, they're jumping into cover, what are you going to do about it? It's tough. It's so tough. They've got so much dagger. It's incredible. Now, speaking of maneuverability, the other most common clan culture you're going to come across, and again, this massively affects all the tactics. We've talked about a lot of orc tactics there, guys. That's a huge amount we've covered in one go. But hopefully you can see how all these things come together to make orcs a shooting army. A really effective shooting army. Don't forget, all their bullets are at least strength 4, which means against most vehicles, against most even tough targets, it's only 5 for them to wound. If you're looking at a standard 40k vehicle, toughness 7 11 wounds, 3 plus save. Orc boys can just bullet it to death, just dagger it to death. Easily. Now, talking about maneuverability, Evil Sons. What the Evil Sons let you do is essentially add 1 to your movement phase, or to your movement, plus 2 if you speed freaks as well, and plus 1 to advance and charge rolls. And you ignore penalties to hit with assault weapons after advancing. So what's really interesting about this is obviously all your shooter boys are assault weapons. So if you want to, if you go to take shooter boys, you can take with bad moons. There's no point in talking about that. We've already talked about shooting things to death. What this is all about, guys, is if you're running is deep striking. So we've talked about maybe the orcs want to deep strike in some shooter boys, dagger you and charge you, but they don't really need to do that because their boys have, like I said, got an 18-inch range. Instead, if they're going to get into close combat, they'll deep strike in the big mob of slugger boys. That's how they want to do it. Or storm boys. Storm boys can go like 13 inches now. If not more. I'm actually not sure on them, but you know, it's crazy. So they can go a long way, storm boys. But if you deep strike in with a unit of 30 boys, slugger boys, as Evil Sons, your charge is plus 1. So it's only an 8-inch charge. Don't forget, orcs have the rule, here we go. A unit with this rule can reroll failed charge rolls, either one or both dice you choose. And that's not a stratagem, that's just a rule. They just get that. Which means on an 8-inch charge with here we go, orcs have a 72.5% chance of making a successful charge. How crazy is that? That's really good. You know how we were talking about the jump? You know how we were talking about teleporter? Maybe, guys, what you'll find yourself up against is half shooters, half slugger army with a lot of tractor cannons in the back. We'll talk about tractor cannons briefly in a moment. A lot of tractor cannons in the back. And the shooter boys, you know, standard 24-inch board. Most boards aren't 24 inches apart now. In a standard board, the shooter boys will move up into their 18-inch range and start blazing away, as we've described. And suddenly you've got 60 plus slugger boys in your face, Evil Sons, from either teleporting or jumping. And those two units have a 72.5% chance of making that charge, which means they're probably going to make that. They're definitely going to get one. Which means in an orc turn 1, you're going to be facing, we're talking 60 slugger boys, 90 shooter boys. You'll be facing 180 shots from the boys, with them getting 30 rerolls of 1 and 30, at least 30 additional shots. If they play more dagger, that will become 40 additional shots, which also gets reroll 1s. Then the orc boys will jump in and they're going to shoot you a little bit as well. Then they're going to charge you. So you're going to have 60 boys in your face, another 90 coming up behind them. And all this, 7 points a boy. Just remember this. All that we've talked about, 150 boys, it's only 1,050 points. Think about that. That's nasty. That's half their army. It's only half their army. Other half can be used for character support, vehicles, you name it. Speaking of support, okay. Speaking of support, we've obviously touched a little bit on weird boys. Orc characters are really killy. Okay, we're not even going to cover that. Orc characters really killy. What we are going to talk about is their additional, and again, you see how this leads me to believe orcs are a shooting army. Their fire support units. Now, what you're going to see a lot of is mech guns. Okay? Not big guns, mech guns. Mech guns hit on a 4+. They benefit from the Grot's ballistic skill, but they don't benefit from a clan culture. Okay? They don't. So your mech, so they're not getting any extra shots and they're not rerolling ones. So just be aware of that. Okay? However, what you're looking at is a unit called the tractor cannon. It's only 45 points. Okay, 45 points. And what you get is a strength 8, AP -2, D6 damage shot. So far, so crack missile. But it automatically hits. Auto hit. So you don't even care that you're hitting on a 4+. You don't care about additional shots. You're auto hitting. And against vehicles with the fly, against vehicles and fly. It's not against flying vehicles. Okay, so not jump pack infantry, against flying vehicles. You'll 2d6 for the damage and choose the damage. And when it is reduced to 0 wounds, it auto crashes and burns. Think about that. Tau are very popular at the moment. Tau makes a bit of a comeback. Tau, all their vehicles have the fly keyword. Auto hitting, wounding on 3s, strength 8, AP -2. Most Tau vehicles are only going to get 5+ save. So you're looking at least, and then that's 2d6 damage. Pick the highest. Bear in mind, guys, these mech guns can be taken in units of 3, I believe, which means 9 of them. So if you take the 1,050 points we had earlier from all our infantry, and then do 45 times 9, everything we've talked about, 150 Orc boys, plus 9 mech guns for additional automatic hitting fire support, is only going to cost the Orc player 1,455 points. That still leaves him with 545 points to get character support. Anything he wants. 555 points for anything he wants. Now, obviously, you've got to take into account that there's probably going to be big shooters in every Orc unit. But still, guys, we're looking at roughly 150 Orc boys and 9 mech guns for about 1,500 points. That's 500 points of Orc character support. That's plenty. It's more than enough. That's basically, if you go on the average that each character's like between 80 and 100 points, you're looking at 5 Orc, 6 Orc. You're going to get 6 Orc characters there. And guess what, guys? 6 Orc characters, you're probably going to therefore be coming across 3 Orc battalions. At least 2 Orc battalions. And a vanguard. Now remember, the Orcs they can mix up. Maybe there'll be some Storm Boys, maybe there won't. But the point I'm getting across here, guys, is Orcs are a shooting army with some really good close combat capability. So there you go, guys. That's the Know Thy Foe video. Don't go into an Orc battle thinking that you're going to be able to outshoot them and shoot them before they get to you. It's not the case anymore. Okay, Orcs will do most of their damage to you with shooting, and what they'll do is they'll launch some really big distraction card effects units at you. 30 Storm Boys, 60 Slugger Boys deep striking in. They'll launch some absolute distraction card effects at you. But in the meantime, their Daka, their 9 tractor cannons, their 60 to 90 shooter boys are the ones that are going to be doing the real damage to you. So you've got to be aware of that. You're going to need good screening, and you're going to need plenty of orders. Okay? Got to remember, though, that but you might be thinking, well, the Orcs have poor armor saves. Just remember, guys, that the Orcs will probably have custom force fields all over the place. Custom force fields give them a 5+ invulnerable save. They're as tough as guardsmen. They're tougher than guardsmen with the same save as a guardsman, if not better because it's an invuln. Just be aware of that. When it comes to fighting Orcs, you can't afford to waste any shots. You're going to need first rank fire, second rank fire. You can't afford to. They're going to be putting out a high amount of firepower. You're going to need to put out even more Daka. Fortunately, we're the Imperial Guard. we can get 4 shots per guy. So you can outshoot them. But just be aware that their shooting units are going to be doing a hell of a lot of damage to you. The one thing I can say I've noticed orcs struggling with is they do seem to struggle with armor saturation. But they can get around it with their mech guns. So there you go, guys. Very sort of, I know we focus on a couple of key things, but I really want to get this point across. It's knowing thy foe, and the most important thing about knowing against orcs is that they're going to be dackering the hell out of you. Thank you for listening. Please leave lots of comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time.